Good afternoon, Cougar fans, and welcome to Concordia Stadium for today's conference matchup between the visiting Muskies of Lakeland University and the Cougars of Concordia University Chicago. I'm Parker Kelly, coming to you live from the Cougar Sports Network. I'm joined up in the booth by Rafael Gonzalez. It's Country Day here in River Forest, as we see lots of cowboy hats and boots out there today. The men's side trying to follow up what was a dominant victory from the women's. The women's just played the Muskies. Kickoff was at 1 p.m. And the Lady Cougars beat the Muskies 4-0 in an exciting matchup on the women's side. Men's side trying to get it done here today. Real quick, we'll send it over to our public address announcer as we go through the starting lineups. And a word from President Don. You're listening to the Cougar Sports Network.
Hello, I'm Dr. Russell Don, President of Concordia University Chicago. Thank you for tuning in to today's Cougar Athletics broadcast. We take great pride in the strength of both our athletic and academic programs, which are rooted in our steadfast commitment to Jesus Christ. Dedicated to the liberal arts as a foundation of a high-quality college degree, we believe education should form individuals for service to their neighbors. This makes Concordia Chicago an exciting and fulfilling place to study, work, learn, and grow. Learn more today by visiting cuchicago.edu. Thank you, and go Cougars!
Fans, thanks for tuning in to today's game. For more information on the men's soccer program, head to cucougars.com. We hope to see you at our next game.
And we're back on the Cougar Sports Network. Real quick, we'll give you a rundown of the starting lineups. First, for the visiting Muskies, number 3, Gavin Pinchart. Number 4, Chris Machio Casas. Number 9, Dirk Del Adima. Number 10, Meskedet Githond. Number 14, Bram Del Adima. Number 15, Alessandro Bianchi. Number 18, Jordan Davis Troller. Number 19, Michael Barragon. Number 23, Ung San. Number 25, Joseph Reyes. And in goal for the Muskies is number 22, Ben Taylor. The Muskies are coached by Kyle Quintel and head coach Rick Mobley. And we'll get to those starting lineups for the Cougars here in just a second, but looks like number 7, Garrett Pointer, is set to kick things off for us here in River Forest, and we're underway. As Pointer sends that to the back line. Now, Elias de Santiago, one of the key players for this Cougars team. Muskies trying to make something happen here early, but Joseph Perez will come out at goal. Good start defensively for the Cougars. Perez will come out at goal, and he'll boot it deep. Closest Cougar in the vicinity was Pointer. Muskies back on offense. Cougars defense has been pretty solid here in the early going of the season. They were at Rockford University on Wednesday night. Fortunately, dropped that match to the Regents 1-0, but defense was pretty solid all night for the Cougars. Talking to Brad Callahan earlier in the week, they're trying to mix up some looks on offense, kind of get some different situations just to see what they can accomplish on the offensive end.
And it was their best performance this entire year defensively, only giving up 1 goal, which before that, coming into the year, they've been giving at least 2 goals or more every game so far until what happened on Wednesday night. So things are looking upwards defensively for the Cougars.
Real quick, while we have a little bit of break in the action, go ahead and give you a rundown of the starting lineups for the Cougars. Number 2, Julian Yanez. Number 3, Andrew Lechuga. Number 7, Garrett Pointer. You'll hear that name a lot today. Number 10, Spencer Nicholson. Number 12, Giovanni Velasquez. Number 14, Evan Perez. Number 15, Joseph Smariglio. Number 22, Elias de Santiago. Number 24, Brandon Arias. Number 30, Alexander Lekowitz. And in goal for the Cougars, the senior, number 35, Joseph Perez. And the Cougars are coached by Maz Shiraz Khan, and in his first season as the head coach, Brad Callahan.
It's such a huge game for both teams. Both teams have been able to score a couple goals this year, but not consistently, as we have a hard foul right there, right near the 36-yard line right there.
And we have a Muskie down on the pitch as he took a hard hit from De Santiago. Just the physical presence of number 22 in white, as taking the fall for the Muskies was Geethond. He's a little slow to get up, but he's walking on his own power. A good sign if you're the Muskies.
It's a good sign for the Muskies indeed. He leads the team in assists, Geethond, this year with 2 of them, so he's been their best playmaker they've had so far throughout the early going of the season.
Free kick right there from the Muskies. That ball pops straight up into the air. And a dangerous play as Perez comes out of goal, and the Muskies strike first in River Forest to take the 1-0 lead over the Cougars.
There was a bit of communication issues right there between Perez and the back line right there defensively. The Cougars were clamoring for an offsides right there. The referee and the 4 official right there say that he was onside right there. The goal scorer for Lakeland, just like that, they have a 1-0 lead.
That goal scored by Lakeland's Jordan Davis Troller, the sophomore midfielder out of Cottage Grove, Wisconsin. He gets the Muskies on the board here first. That's his first goal of the season. Not a good start if you're the Cougars. And Roth, what were you have some experience playing goalie. What did you see out of Perez coming out of goal right there?
So Perez is going out of goal right there, trying to get the ball before, Davis Troller got there. And what happened there was that the Cougars' entire team thought that Troller was offside to begin with, and then, as you saw right there a few moments ago, that was not the case. So it was a bit of miscommunication from the Cougar defenders and Perez himself, which is not something that we would expect from Perez nor his entire defensive back line.
And the assist was conducted by number 25, Joseph Reyes, his first assist on the season. And not even 5 minutes into the contest, Lakeland's up 1-0 as another Muskie hits the turf hard. We'll have the athletic trainers from CUC come over to make sure he's all right. We'll take a quick pause in the broadcast. You're listening to the Cougar Sports Network.
We appreciate you tuning into today's game. To stay up to date on all things CUC men's soccer, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CUCM Soccer. We hope to see you on campus soon.
We're back on the Cougar Sports Network. A Muskie player hitting the turf pretty hard. I believe that was number 18, Jordan Davis Troller, who just scored the goal to get the Muskies on the board. He's helped off the pitch by a couple of his teammates as he'll get checked out by a couple of the CUC athletic trainers. Hope he is all right. Meanwhile, the Cougars back on offense as they try to respond to the 1-0 deficit.
Meanwhile, since that, they've taken, as you mentioned, Parker Jordan Davis Troller off, and since then coming in for him as number 8, Brennan Perry, the junior out of Michigan.
And the Cougars with a potential opportunity, and that's through and a goal! Cougars respond just like that. And that's number 2, Julian Yanez, the junior out of Cicero, Illinois. Excellent response by him. We have a tie game 1-1.
And all start off with a beautiful cross right there from number 30, Alexander Lekowitz right there on his right foot right there, crossing it into the box right there to number 2, Julian Yanez right there, and a perfect header right there. But also, though, not a good job right there by a netminder, number 22, Ben Taylor right there, letting the ball go right through his hands. And a careless mistake by him, but a great cross, a great header, resulting in a much deserved goal right there for the Cougars.
Now the Cougars starting to feel this momentum a little bit. We have an offensive shootout here in the first 5 minutes of the game. Roth, I didn't think we expected this.
Not particularly from the Cougars at all, because, one thing I wanted to mention beforehand was that the Cougars coming into this game, they had conceded 14 goals in the first half and only scored 1. They've been far more known this year as a second-half team, but so far they are clicking on all cylinders early on, at least attacking-wise.
Capitalize on that opportunity for sure. As Lakeland operating in Concordia territory, looks like we'll get a free kick right here from Alessandro Bianchi. So he lines up for the kick. Boots that one, trying to find a couple of his teammates. But stopped by the Cougars on defense. Nicholson sends that one out of bounds. Just trying to clear it out right here. Not great conditions for today's soccer match. Just below 70 degrees, very cloudy, and some light rain in the forecast. But we're still going here in River Forest for game number 2 of CUC and Lakeland.
There's no players on the pitch that hate the rain more than goalkeepers. And so far, we've seen Perez and Taylor both make a mistake, and it has since allowed each team to score 1 goal. It'll be interesting to see, though, who makes far fewer mistakes throughout the entire day.
Cougars brought up a good point, Roth. Cougars are first in the NAC so far in this early season in saves with a total of 26. Not even including the saves in today's matchup. But it's kind of a rarity, especially considering the senior Perez in goal for the Cougars, to see him concede a goal that early on in the match.
Yeah, it's a bit of an anomaly right there, situation for Perez. But since then, he looks a lot more calm, a lot more composed. Has sort of gotten rid of the first goal out of his memory.
It's important to have that quick memory for sure, able to flush the mistakes. Perez has done just that. Speaking of Perez, he comes out of goal to prevent the ball from going any further, and he'll clear it out.
And then what's more interesting is we have a foul right there. In these first 7 minutes of the game, the Cougars have been far more energetic so far than they did at any point in their game Wednesday against Rockford. It just shows sort of how the confidence they're building between the players and the chemistry between one another. And so far, we're seeing that on full display early on.
This Cougars team has struggled kind of generating that energy. But an early goal right there from Yanez really kind of sparked a fuse within this team. It's something nice to see. Lakeland comes in today with a record of 1-3-1. They are 0-1 in conference play. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the Cougars sitting at 0-5, 0-1 in the conference. Cougars are looking to get their first win of the season and first win in conference, and Roth, a win today would be monumental.
It would be very monumental indeed. This is a Cougars team, that wasn't viewed by many teams in the NAC as someone who was going to be really competitive. But so far, look at it so far what they've done today, and then also on Wednesday against Rockford, they played really hard against them. They're looking really good here.
And now Yanez was working with it as that poked away by a couple Muskies. And now Perez trying to chase it down. That kick way off the mark. Believe that was off the right foot of Geethon. You remember he was the one a little slow to get up in the first 5 minutes of the half.
Yeah, Geethon right there had a great opportunity right there to cross it into the middle right there, number 19. Michael Berrigan right there, and unfortunately just a bit too much power, not enough accuracy right there on the cross. Berrigan had a really good opportunity right there in the box, and unfortunately just went past him.
Now we'll get a throw in from the Muskies. Perez comes over, kicks the ball out of bounds. Kind of one of the cool things about this Cougars team, you have Perez, who's in goal, Joseph Perez, and then his younger brother, Evan Perez, also in the starting lineup. So 2 brothers in the starting lineup for this Cougars team. I think it's pretty cool when you have 2 brothers playing on the same team.
It's great, especially, from the parent side, I think, seeing their kids, both playing, on the same time. It's really a good feeling for the Perez family.
Don't ever have to worry about watching your kids compete against each other when they're on the same team. Pretty cool feat. That one ricochets off of Lechuga. And now Perez will come out of goal. Trying to get the Cougars organized on the offensive end. He boots that one over in the middle of the field. We see Giovanni Velasquez was behind him, and it's good to see him out on the field today. We were unsure if he was going to be able to compete this afternoon. He was kind of nursing a little bit of an ankle injury, but it's a really good sign that Velasquez is out there, as he is an instrumental piece in this Cougars lineup.
No, and that just brings a lot more stability to the midfield as well, him being a critical piece in the midfield, almost like an anchor sort of role right there. So it's great for Coach Callahan and the Cougars to have him back, and so far he's done a really good job.
He's done a great job, and so of the Cougars, we got an interesting match here between two conference opponents. That one is going to go off the foot of Dibus. And now the Muskies working with it. Both teams playing pretty well in the midfield. And now Muskies marching right down the field. That one just out of reach. Geethond. And now Perez will find Velasquez, who we were just talking about, who passes it to Smeriglio. Smeriglio taking the ball right back. And now Velasquez finds Nicholson in the midfield. Muskie's good defensive stand. Working with it on the far sideline was Lechuga. And that pass just beyond the reach of Pointer. Pointer, the leading goal scorer for this Cougars team. He has 3 goals on the season, which ranks 8th in the NAC. He's also attempted 18 shots, which is 4th in the NAC. First in the NAC in shots on goal as well with 13. So he's the main culprit of the Cougars' offensive attack.
The Cougars want to have success throughout this entire conference. You know, they need Pointer to really step up, you know, because you look at the last game against Rockford, you know, different circumstances compared to today, but he was pretty much a non-factor in that game. It had to do more with the fact of just the way how the Cougars were playing in that game against Rockford, a lot more defensive, a lot more conservative. But so far today, they have done a really good job, you know, attacking.
And since about the 40-minute mark, by that time it was already 1-1. It's been a defensive contest the next 10 minutes. Not a whole lot of shots up by either side. Cougars only with 3 and the Muskies only with 1.
But what's been very interesting about that, though, is that both teams, particularly in the midfield, have done a lot of counter-pressing, meaning that once they lose possession of the ball, they immediately like to press up and try to regain possession again and try to start off another attack, which, you know, early on in the game when both teams still have a lot of energy and there's not much fatigue, it's doable. However, as the game further progresses, we're going to see a lot more or less counter-pressing due to the fatigue.
Nice header right there from De Santiago. Finds Smeriglio. Both teams kind of playing a little bit of back and forth here. Slide tackle right there from Velasquez.
It's a great slide tackle by him right there.
And now Pointer working right down the middle of the field, trying to take it all by himself. Kind of had that one taken away, and now Smeriglio struggling to get the ball back, but Nicholson is able to find it. Pointer hits the turf. You can tell he was kind of upset about that as he thought there might be a foul. Now De Santiago finds Nicholson again. And that pass from De Santiago almost goes out of bounds, but the Muskies are able to corral it in the end. Pass had a little speed behind it as it rolls to the Cougar bench. We'll get a throw in right here from the Cougars. Roth, if you're the Muskies, what's your goal right here on offense?
The goal right now is starting to create a bit more attacks. You mentioned it shortly a few minutes ago how both teams started to slow down the tempo and how overall, we haven't seen many shots by either team, particularly Lakeland. Outside of that opening goal, they haven't had a single shot yet, let alone one on target. So it's interesting to see, Lakeland, they start trying to do more, particularly on the touchline on both sides. It's an opportunity right here for the Cougars.
And I believe that was Yanez who hits the turf pretty hard, but he's back up. We've seen a plethora of players really hit the pitch kind of hard today. Both teams coming out pretty aggressive. The header right there from De Santiago, who finds Lechuga. Smeriglio trying to track it down. He just decides to let that one go out. We'll get a throw in right here from the Muskies. And number 15, Bianchi. Both teams playing pretty stingy defense in the midfield, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. That ball will roll out of bounds. Believe the Muskies will stay on offense, however, as it was last touched by a Cougar. We talked about the Cougars coming off a 1-0 loss at Rockford University on Wednesday night. And Rock, we were talking about how they played pretty good defense all night. How do we kind of expect that to carry over into today's matchup?
Well, what they did really well was that, they had a lot of players, particularly in the midfielders, come back and support defensively, in which it really helped them a lot. Now, granted, they did concede a goal against Rockford, but they did a really good job. They didn't allow Rockford to have many really good quality opportunities in that game. And, you look particularly in that game in the second half, they did a really good job, gaining more opportunities, through a couple of counterattacks. So, in the second half, in that game, they looked a lot more complete as they did compared to in the first half. And today, so far, they've done a complete opposite in the way how they played against Rockford. A lot more conservative, a lot more, defensively. Whereas today, they've done a really good job, pushing up forward, having a couple players go up on attack, and just overall a lot more better quality of soccer here so far in the opening 20 minutes.
And Lakeland also came off of a loss at St. Norbert on Wednesday night as well. They fell to the Green Knights 1-0, just like the Cougars. So both teams dropping their conference opener. So this would be big today for either side. It's always sweet to get that first win in conference. And, Roth, I know we've talked about this a couple times. It's one thing when it's non-conference play, and obviously you don't want to lose any game in general, but it's a completely different beast when you get to that NAC regular season play.
It just means more, to be quite honest, especially because, you have players who know other players from different schools, arch rivals. So, to finally get the monkey off their backs and win their first conference game, should they score another goal here before the end of the day, is going to be huge for them and just overall huge boost for morale and confidence for the Cougars.
Right now, the Muskies sitting at 11th in the conference, and meanwhile, the Cougars sitting at dead last at 13th. A little history lesson. The Cougars are 7-8-3 all time between the Muskies, and they have a record of 4-3-2 at home versus Lakeland. Last matchup came last September 28th, 2022. Both these teams tied 0-0. That has already changed quickly here today as both teams scored a goal. And now Velasquez working with it, trying to find an outlet. He finds Smeriglio on the near side. That pass just a little beyond pointer. And goalie Ben Taylor will come out. Sends his teammates deep. Trying to find his fellow teammate Pinchart in the midfield. Now De Santiago finds Smeriglio again. Now Nicholson trying to beat a defender. He finds Pointer. Pointer gets tripped up again. And now Yanez, he's looking for his teammate Lekowitz over on the far side. That ball will roll out of bounds. The Cougars will stay on offense. And Ruff, it's been pretty even so far considering possession between both sides.
It has been so far, although just the momentum of this game has completely got in favor of the Cougars. And it's shown so far. They've had now 5 shots in this game. And this has been probably the best opening 20, 25 minutes we've seen this Cougars team. I give credit to Coach Callahan and his entire staff right there.
And now the Muskies trying to march right back down the field. Got to give credit to the Cougars defense. Ever since that first goal by Gethan, the Cougars defense has looked solid since that point.
And even then, that first goal right there was just a simple case of miscommunication right there. Other than that, Lakeland haven't had really any good opportunities yet. They haven't had a shot, to be specific. But overall, really good performance by the Cougars on all 3 facets of the game.
And like I mentioned, speaking with Brad Callahan this week, defense hasn't really been the issue for the Cougars. It's been goals and getting different looks on offense, and that's something they're kind of looking to try today. Maybe try some different rotations, get some different looks just to see what everybody brings to the table. There's not a whole lot of depth on this Cougars team, and that may play a factor eventually, but Coach Callahan just really wants to see what he can get out of some different rotations.
And today so far, it's been a really good example of just this Cougars team living up to their full potential so far here in this opening half. And you did mention it right there. They don't have any substitutions right there. So it's going to be interesting to see in the second half, especially for Lakeland. They have a lot of guys on their bench. It'll be interesting to see, though, if just the fatigue from this Cougars team, particularly defensively, is going to cost them in the second half.
The Cougars are 9th in the NAC in goals scored with 6. That number will have to increase in order to be a little bit more competitive down the stretch of conference play, because road only gets tougher from here for the Cougars.
And, you look at Lakeland's side, they've scored 11 goals this year. However, they've scored 8 of those in one single game. Outside of that, they've only scored 3 in every game since. So this is not a Lakeland team that, on paper looks like a team that scores a lot in theory. However, they haven't managed to really score much.
Yeah, Lakeland 4th in the NAC in total goals with 11, as you kind of alluded to. So this is a big, big matchup for both sides today. Looking for their first conference win of the young season. This Pointer tries to gain control of that, but the Muskies ultimately prevail as that pass out of bounds from Gethan. We'll get a throw in right here from De Santiago. He throws it right back to Velasquez, who's standing behind him. Nice header right there from the Muskies. Pointer not able to corral that one. Nicholson takes a tumble. And it rolls onto the track. Players have to be a little bit careful. The track is a little wet as it was raining earlier. That rain has since stopped. So more favorable conditions for the Cougars and Muskies.
What's been surprising is that no one really This entire game has really slipped on the turf so far. I thought that was going to be one of key to the game for both teams.
It's been more slide tackles and players tripping each other than anything, and a nice goal right there from Lekowitz. That was an absolute missile as it pings right inside the left corner of the goal, and the Cougars take the 2-1 lead.
What an absolute strike right there from Lekowitz. He set up the opening goal of the game there to Giannis, and now this time on his right foot right there in the upper 90 corner on the left-hand side. An absolute beauty from him right there, and he's given the Cougars a lead, and single-handedly he has been the best player for the Cougars here in this opening half.
We saw right there, that was a deep shot, and Lekowitz with the accuracy and power. It was an absolute strike. But he puts his team on the board once again. And now the Cougars have a 2-1 lead here in River Forest.
And what's even more impressive about the goal was where he shot it. He didn't shot it across the middle of the pitch. He shot it right there on the right-hand side with his right foot. And he did a tremendous job right there. Beautiful ball placement.
Cougars are looking much better on offense. You definitely tell that the Cougars are getting some different looks, able to generate different situations on the offense, and it's really paying off for them. But a goal right there. Lakeland responds almost immediately. I believe that was Gthon once again, so he now has 2 goals in the game for the Muskies, and we're tied 2-2.
That came off of the corner right there. Beautiful in-swinging corner right there, and a tremendous header right there by the senior out of Jackson, Wisconsin. And immediately, what a response right there by Lakeland.
And what we've seen, we saw Lakeland go on the board first, then the Cougars responded almost immediately. Then the Cougars get their second goal out the afternoon, and the Muskies respond immediately. It has just been an offensive shootout here in the first half. Really exciting soccer match so far.
And it has to do more with the playing style of both teams, Both teams are going balls to the wall, so to speak. A lot of great attacks are building up. Neither team really that much concern of how they're playing defensively. And, they've both been rewarded with 2 goals. Also, in the same hand, they've conceded 2. So it'll be interesting to see which defense ties up first.
Cougars and Muskies both getting great looks on offense, as we have a neck-and-neck affair here in the first half. Now the Muskies working with it deep in their own territory. That pass is intercepted by Smariglio, who finds Pointer. A couple of Muskies come over, get the ball away, and this one is just going to roll right to Perez. He kicks it to his younger brother, Evan Perez. And now Nicholson working with it. Tries to find DeBass. Cougars are just trying to get it to Garrett Pointer. Been unsuccessful in doing that so far. We mentioned Pointer, the leading shot taker for this Cougars team. The Muskies know how dangerous he can be on the offensive end. They're doing a good job of playing defense on him.
They've done a really good job with 2 center backs for Lakeland to play really uptight and mark Pointer really well. And we've seen as a byproduct of that how they love it playing Letchowitz on the left as he tries to get the ball right there again. So far, he's been the person who's been able to take advantage most of the way how Lakeland has played defensively.
A pretty high-scoring first half for a soccer match here in River Forest. Really couldn't ask for a better one if you're a fan. We'll get a throw in right here from the Muskies. Nice header right there from Lechuga. And the Cougars trying to make something happen. We get to clear out another header right there from Velasquez. kind of see this midfield soccer that we've been seeing a lot in the first half.
I think the one thing that stood out right now, you look at, the shots, we've talked about, quality versus quantity amount of shots. Both teams, have had a lot of good quality opportunities despite not having many shots. And you look at Lakeland, they've had 4 shots. 2 of them have been on target, resulting both in goals. The Cougars, they've had 6 shots, 5 on target, 2 on goals. So both teams have not had many opportunities, but when they have had good opportunities, have been prime, really good, great goal-scoring opportunities. And both teams have done a really good job converting on those attempts.
Cougars have kind of been struggling to capitalize on those opportunities, at least in the first 5 games of the season, but this looks like a completely different Cougars team than what we've seen in the previous 5 matches. And I know if you're Coach Callahan, you're really happy to see this offensive attack.
Well, last time we've seen this Cougars team done really well on the attack, have to go back to their second game of the year when they played away at Anderson, Indiana, in which they scored 3 goals that game. Since then, they haven't been able to achieve that mark. And so far today, they're only 1 goal away from achieving it, because outside of that, their past 3 games, they've only scored 2 goals. So a lot more better overall play of soccer today.
Cougars working with it deep in their own territory. Lechuga will send that to Velasquez, who boots it looking for DeBass. Pointer not able to get a foot on it, and a slide tackle right there from Nicholson. Pretty nice slide tackle at that. Now Pointer takes a deep shot, and that one looks like it almost had a chance. And we see Pointer not afraid to take those deep shots. We've seen him do that a lot this year, but that one was deep rough.
That was a good effort right there by Pointer, but once again, it's the second time already today for the Lakeland keeper and Ben Taylor right there making a near fatal mistake right there. We saw him the first time he made a mistake. It cost, his team a goal, and right there again, almost a very near mistake right there. Potentially the ball went in. Unfortunately, no VAR like they do in the professional leagues. And unfortunately for the Cougars, they're still tying at 2 apiece.
We saw Ben Taylor, the one in goal for the Muskies, just barely saving that by the skin of his teeth. It looked like it might have had a chance. Now the Muskies with a potential opportunity right here. That shot off the foot of Campuzano just misses the left side of the goal.
And going back to my last spot right there about Taylor, if you're head coach Rick Mobley of Lakeland right there at halftime, do you make the change in goalkeeper right there? You have your junior netminder, number 1, Zach Hyman, who has been the starting goalkeeper for the majority of the season. So it'll be interesting whether or not Mobley continues to trust his current goalkeeper right now, or he moves towards his more veteran keeper.
I think you could really make an argument for both, for maybe a change in goalkeepers on both sides. We'll have to see how that plays out. So we get a throw in from Bianchi and the Muskies. They're going to go back to work on offense. Now Bianchi working with it in the middle third. Looked like the Muskies had an opportunity. Nice job of Julian Yanez of clearing it out.
What a game it has been for him right there. A goal and assist to his name. The junior out of Cicero, Illinois, has been an incredible player so far in this opening half, impacting both sides of the game for the Cougars.
Absolutely. Yanez and Lekowitz both playing very pivotal roles today on the offensive end, as both players have scored goals for the Cougars. And on the other side, Giathond for the Muskies has really taken over that role on offense for Lakeland, as he scored both of the goals. Excuse me, no. Giathond only scored 1. Jordan Davis-Troller the other. So both of those are the main attackers for the Muskies at this stage in the game. As we'll get a substitution for the Cougars, it looks like Roberto Romero will be making his debut in this game. Romero, the junior out of Chicago, Illinois. Now Velazquez and De Santiago playing a little back and forth. They'll find Perez on the other side. He's working with it in the midfield. Sends it over to D-Bass. Now Velazquez, a lot of green in front of him. A deep shot misses the mark. So we've now seen deep shot from Velazquez and Pointer, showing that they're not afraid to shoot the ball wherever they're at in the field. Very confident in their abilities.
And it has to do also, I don't think the Cougars team, particularly their attacking third, they don't respect right now the current goalkeeper for Lakeland right now and Taylor right now. They see him as a liability for his team, and that's why, you know, we keep seeing them having these long shots and they're almost going in.
Ben Taylor making his second start of the season, his fourth game appearance. Prior to today, he's only made 4 saves in just a little over 134 minutes of play. Now Yanez working with it in the middle third, has that taken away by the Muskies. Nice play right there defensively from De Santiago. Finds Smariglio on the near side. And De Santiago will just boot that one into the stands. That one deflects off of Smariglio. Cougars quick to get back on defense as they're trying to clear this one out. Now the Muskies dribbling down the field, finds Beathon. And that shot rolls on the right side past the net. Beathon not afraid to get his shots in either.
Let's see what the Cougars here, let's see what they will do this time defending the corner. Remember last time they conceded it, so we're just going to see if they change something right here when defending it.
We'll get a corner kick from number 8, Brendan Perry. Nice defense right there from Christopher D-Bass. Excuse me, Brandon Arias.
You know, we have like 6.5 minutes before halftime. You know, we've talked a lot about this Cougars team, how they've done a really good job on the attack. We also talk about the defense, how they really sort of calmed down, been a little more composed as the first half continues to wind down. The unsung hero in this game has been the midfield core of Nicholson, Velazquez, and De Santiago. They have done a really good job, you know, getting possession in the midfield and helping those Cougars start off the attacks once more. And, you know, we're seeing the impact of having Velazquez back on the team.
And Nicholson as well. He's regarded as one of the more vocal leaders on this Cougar team. Now they're happy to have him out as he missed a couple games a little bit earlier in the season due to concussion. He's played an instrumental piece, like you mentioned, Roth, in the midfield. A throw in right there from De Santiago. A few whistles blown. And we'll get a couple substitutions as Chris D-Bass comes in for Joey Smariglio and Carson Galla comes in for Brendan Perry for the Muskies. Now Lekowitz tries to find Lachuga, and goalie Ben Taylor. Nice stop. And we're now under 5 minutes to go here in the first half.
If you're either team here in these last 5 minutes, the last thing you want to do is really concede a goal, considering how well overall both teams have been playing. And conceding a goal right here, right now, is going to be very detrimental heading into the locker room at halftime.
As the Muskies work with it on the far side, trying to potentially get a third goal before half. Cougars defense looking to get a stop right here. And that's exactly what they do as Perez comes out of goal. He'll clear it out for the maroon and gold. And now Lakeland working with it in the middle third. That'll roll out of bounds and towards the Cougars bench. So, Roth, we talked about it. Cougars getting a couple fresh sets of legs in here, trying to get a good defensive stop before halftime.
Right now, it's a really good chance, right, to bring in substitutions, get them a little bit more, game time, and also just overall just better sharpness and fatigue.
And now Garrett Pointer strips that one away. He's dribbling in and out of defenders, trying to look for some help. Now DeBass will find Velazquez standing right behind him. Now Roberto Romero playing in the midfield. He'll find Lekowitz. That shot hits the outside portion of the net. Muskies get a goal kick conducted by Taylor. Muskies trying to find any potential holes within that Cougar defense. Nice defense right there from Yanez. Now Arias trying to track it down. Couple whistles blow by the on-field officials. And I believe we're going to get a free kick right here from Joseph Reyes. Now under 2 minutes to go here in half number one. Cougars and Muskies tied at 2 apiece. That free kick is up. Couple of headers as the Cougars try to clear this one out, and they do. Good defensive stand from the maroon and gold.
So far here, near the end of the half, it's been a lot more better job with the Cougars team defensive in the back line right there. A lot more composed and a lot more structured overall.
See that Lakeland was awarded the free kick due to a foul on Brandon Arias. Now the Muskies crossing over the midfield. Now 1 minute to go here in the first half. Now De Santiago trying to find Arias. Just not able to get to that one. Get another throw in from Bianchi.
See both teams here as we've gone further along here in this half. The game has slowed down a lot more for both sides, whereas, early on in this game we saw both teams attack back and forth in a really quick up-tempo pace so far. But I haven't seen much of that since.
As time winds down, 10 seconds to go here in the first half. Last heave, and that goes into the goal. I believe they're going to call that a no goal. It looks like Perez was reaching up. He jumped as high as he could, trying to block it. It looks like it might have hit that top portion of the net. It kind of was unsure how that one was going to play out. Regardless, it was a nice shot on goal from the Muskies. So it will be no goal. We'll go into halftime tied 2-2. And so, Roth, we talked about it. We've seen offense from the Muskies. We've seen offense from CUC. Something you brought up kind of in the middle of that first half was a goalie change. Now, if we're looking at inside the box score, Ben Taylor for the Muskies, 5 saves, 2 goals allowed. And on the other side, Joseph Perez, 2 goals allowed, 0 saves. Do you think that maybe we could see a goalie switch by either side?
Not just a goal switch, but probably both goalies, based on what we've seen in this first half, you know. Both teams have 2 really good, capable goalkeepers sitting right now on the bench. It'll be interesting to see if one team or the other tries to make a change here in the second half, which could very well be the difference by the end of the game.
We will have to see how things play out. We are currently tied 2-2 at the halftime marker. You're listening to the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back for more second half coverage.
Concordia University Chicago is a Christ-centered Lutheran university where truth, freedom, and vocation form students for lives of influence and service for the common good. Our university offers a wide variety of undergraduate and graduate degree options that are available in person and online. That means we have a program designed for you. Whether you're a high school student, an adult returning to complete your degree, or someone looking to enhance your credentials and prepare for career growth. As a member of this university community, you'll also find support in your spiritual and personal life so you can grow in the faith and discover ways to serve others. To start your next journey with us, visit cuchicago.edu today.
CUC nursing student and choose to stand tall for healing at a university that places Christ at the center and embraces teaching students to live a life fulfilled by purpose and meaning. Concordia University Chicago's new Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree is an innovative and rigorous 4-year program that will prepare you to rise to the daily challenges of a rewarding nursing career and serve a greater cause. Our newly built modern simulation center features 4 distinct spaces, a skills attainment lab, multi-specialty intensive care spaces, a health assessment learning center, and a simulated home environment. Due to our close proximity to many world-class teaching hospitals, CUC's clinical rotations offer an abundance of diverse and real-world experiences. Learn more about earning your BSN at a Christ-centered university today.
Hey, I'm Monica here at Concordia University Chicago, and we're here outside of Concordia Hall. Concordia Hall is the university's newest residence hall, right on the edge of campus, perfect for students who want to explore the nearby downtown of Oak Park and River Forest. The flexible suite-style living in fully furnished bedrooms lets students choose what works best for them. Every floor is complete with a community lounge and full common kitchen, with a kitchenette, microwave, sink, and refrigerator. The first floor offers the Victory Lounge, connecting to 2 additional residence halls, with no shortage of ways to relax. You're also right next to an open, outdoor plaza, better known as Victory Lane. So now we're here in Concordia Hall's suite style dorm room, and this is a really nice place to just hang out and chill. And since it's so big, there's plenty of room to spread out and do your homework and just relax. So now making our way into one of the bedrooms, there's plenty of space in this room for you and your roommate. A lot of times students will move the desks so that they've got their separate study space, but my roommate and I, we get along really well, so we can just work together here in the same space. Sometimes I like doing art as well, as you can see by the painting here. It's a 16 by 10 feet space, and most rooms on campus are 10 by 12 feet. So it's really nice to have a little extra space to work with here in Concordia Hall. So this hall is super close to the chapel and the Kennedy Community Center, which has the new Crossroads Dining Hall. So the location is super convenient. And I really love the city scene too. The location here is the closest on campus to the Oak Park River Forest downtown area, which has a ton of great stores and restaurants. Speaking of the city scene, I adore the view from this lounge because you can see the Chicago skyline right there. Concordia Hall at Concordia University, Chicago.
And a quick halftime break as we're back in River Forest. For second half action, we're tied at 2 apiece. And Lakeland will start the half on offense. And get a kick back to the goalie. Roth, we were talking about if we could potentially see a goalie change. We have not seen a goalie change by either side so far.
No, we haven't yet, which, speaks to both head coaches, for both teams. They have a bunch of confidence in their current netminder. So far, though, it was a bit of a sloppy first half for both goalkeepers.
And it looks like the Muskies might have had a chance right there. But that shot no good. Big break right there for the Cougars to start off the second half.
And just similarly like what happened in the early going of this game, Lakeland starting to get the ball rolling and a quick opportunity right there. Same thing what happened in the first half, which hence they got their first goal of the game.
And now the Cougars deep in their own territory working with it. He finds Pointer. Pointer kind of struggling to get the ball in his possession. As that's just more credit to the Muskies playing good defense on Pointer.
They have so far, yet despite that, though, this Cougars team has done a really good job in the final third, creating a lot of good opportunities. We mentioned it earlier in the first half. Alexander Lekowitz so far been sort of the star in that final third for the Cougars with a goal and assist to his name.
And now De Santiago finds Velasquez right behind him. And now Evan Perez trying to find Nicholson in the mid-third. Header right there from the Muskies. Another one from Lechuga, or Lettuce as his teammates like to call him. And a header right there from Pointer. It goes right into the hands of Taylor. And a save from the Muskies.
Once again, another really good cross right there from Lekowitz. We've seen that do him throughout the entire first half. And a good header right there by Pointer. And a good play, good job there by Taylor right there and being in perfect position to make the save.
We've seen Pointer used to getting more shots on goal, really just a lot of shots in general. That's kind of how he plays his style. But he's gotten very few chances so far in today's matchup. The Muskies are playing really tight defense on him. I believe he's had 2 shots on goal so far in today's matchup.
I think the only way really we're going to see Pointer be involved in this game and the attack, particularly what we just saw right there from Lekowitz, is crossing the ball in the box and hope that Pointer is high and his physicality right there, what powers the defense.
And now the Cougars working with it on offense. Finds Lechuga, who slides it in there to Giannis. Giannis has a couple of defenders draped on his back. And now Lekowitz was trying to get control of it, but it was last touched by the Muskies, so the Cougars will stay on offense. We'll get a throw in right here from Lechuga. Trying to get it to Pointer. It's unsuccessful. We'll get a clear out from Lakeland. And a throw in from De Santiago. And now Perez. And that ball will trickle out of bounds onto the track. They'll hand possession right back to the Muskies.
A bit of a questionable decision-making right there by Lechuga right there, trying to do a back heel right there as he gets just tossed to the ground right there, and a foul right there committed by number 26 for Lakeland.
I believe that was Tristan Robb who kind of tripped up Lechuga right there, and a hard fall from the grad student. Now the Cougars trying to capitalize on this opportunity. A pass from Smariglio intercepted by the Muskies, but De Santiago takes it right back, kicks it on back to Velasquez. Velasquez dribbling, trying to find some options. He sends it back to Perez, who sends it to De Santiago. And Taylor will come out of goal. Nice stop right there for the Muskies. Muskies trying to get out of their territory. Nice stop from Lekowitz as he sends that one out of bounds.
So far, it's been pretty even, both teams in the shots. You know, Cougars have had 10 shots, 8 of those on target, whereas Lakeland, they've had 8 shots, only 2 on target, but both of those have resulted in a goal. So it's been a really good back and forth contest between both of these two teams.
A really good percentage as well. 10 of your shots, 8 of them have been on target, 80%. And then for the Muskies, 8 shots, 2 on target, about 25%. Cougars in double digits in the shot category, which is a step in the right direction. Something that Coach Callahan has been kind of harping on for his team, getting more opportunities offensively and on the attack.
And rightfully so. You know, coming into today, they average only 10 shots a game this season. They've averaged 10 per game. And already here, we barely started the second half, they've already matched their season total per game. So really good job by this Cougars team, you know, creating really good opportunities throughout this entire game so far.
And Rolf, really, like, from a fan perspective, this has been a very intriguing matchup to watch. We see that both teams got off to that hot start, as both teams scoring a goal within the first 5 minutes of the match, and then scoring a goal from, I believe it was off of the foot of Giannis, and then Lakeland responds immediately. It's been a very intriguing matchup to watch.
It's been really competitive. Both teams have scored within almost a minute and 15 of each other on both occasions in this game. And this is the type of game as a fan you want to see. You want to see great opportunities. You want to see, you know, players making big time, you know, shots, making great saves. You know, the goalkeepers have done a really good job in that sense. And we still have almost nearly an entire half to play here. There's still a lot can happen.
And the Cougars working with it. We get the throw in from De Santiago. Finds Velazquez. Now clear out right there from the Cougars, but the Muskies get it right back. Nicholson trying to play tough defense. And now Lekowitz. We'll get a a free kick right here from the Cougars and Giovanni Velazquez. He'll send it short to Nicholson, who gives it right back to Velazquez. De Santiago comes up to kind of get something going on offense for the Cougars. Lakeland does a nice job of taking that one away from Arias. Flips the field right there, and Perez will come out of goal to halt any momentum the Muskies have on offense.
So far, both teams are slowing down the tempo of this game. A lot more, you know, shorter passes, you know. They're sort of trying to sort of control possession of the game and really establish which team is able to retain possession and slowly move their way upwards towards the pitch. Whereas in the first half, both teams didn't care much about possession, rather more of just how fast can they counterattack.
It seems like just definitely a different approach in the second half. We saw in the first half it was more of an offensive-centric game. We saw a couple of really deep shots from Pointer and Lekowitz. And now, like you mentioned, trying to really control the possession, control the clock, kind of a different outlook for the Cougars. We'll see how that plays out in their favor.
And it has to do with the reality of the way both teams play in the early in the opening half. They cannot continue that for the entire 90 minutes. At some point, fatigue is going to set in, and we're seeing that byproduct happening here early on in the second half.
Absolutely. It's easy, too, considering, like we talked about this, Cougars do not have a lot of depth as compared to the Muskies. So kind of that high-tempoed first half, that's okay, but you can't do that the whole 90 minutes. So playing a little bit of a smarter half right here, definitely a smart approach, I would say, as Taylor comes out, gets the stop for the Muskies.
But this has been a Cougars team that throughout the entire season, they have played better in the second half of games. So based on what we saw in the first half, really good job. You think in the second half they're going to be able to continue that the same and play a full, complete 90 minutes and see if they could try to get a goal here before the game ends.
Looks like they might have had an opportunity as pass stolen by the Muskies. Now the Muskies trying to flip the field right here. It's been a good day for Concordia soccer so far. As mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the women's team got the win over the Muskies 4-0. And the women's team kind of rolling right now, their second straight conference win. Meanwhile, on the men's side, looking to get their first conference win and first win of the season here today.
Soccer, it's all about morale and the dynamics between the players and the chemistry, and winning, goes a long way towards helping that. And we've seen it with the women now for the past 2 games, and the men here, they're trying to establish that themselves here today.
And something I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm sure you have, usually it's pretty common to see some of the players on the Concordia side sitting on the bench during the half, but they're all standing right there, right now. So you can already tell the morale is a little bit different, and it really helps when you're producing on the offensive end.
It really does, and, it speaks to just the morale being headed towards an upward trajectory for this team.
And Cougars will stay on offense. They're in Lakeland territory, so another potential opportunity, a little bit of a different look as well for the Cougars as Perez tries to sneak that one into Pointer. Good job of the Muskies clearing it out, but DeSantiago's going to try to track it down, but sends that one out of bounds over on the far side of the track.
Lakeland bringing in a couple of new fresh legs onto the pitch. This is what we're talking about, at the end of the first half. The strength in numbers that Lakeland has on the bench could be an important impact, for them as the game further progresses with the Cougars not having many options on the bench.
And it looks like we'll get a couple of substitutions for the Muskies into the game. For Brendan Perry is Bromdell Adema, and in for Shu Sanusi is Carson Gala. Gala is listed as a goalkeeper on the roster for the Muskies, but he is playing in the field.
We talked about how, Lakeland, all their subs, they've already used 8 players on the bench today. Whereas for the Cougars, they've only used 2 in Roberto Romero and Chris Divas. So we're seeing Lakeland now really trying to take advantage of the fresh legs out there on their pitch.
Speaking of Chris Divas, he comes into the game for Evan Perez. So he's made an appearance in the first half and now in the second as well. Is that ball going to go over the head of a couple of players on the Concordia bench, but Last touch by a Muskie. And now possession will flip. Muskies will go on offense. See both sides playing pretty tight in the midfield, much to the same tune of the first half. Seems that also the Cougars have had more opportunities on offense in the second half than the Muskies.
Which is very interesting, you know, considering the end of the first half, you know, both teams, you know, sort of, you know, were slowing the game down. Yet the Cougars, despite the fact they're slowing the game down, they're still able to contribute really good opportunities, you know, in the second half. Whereas Lakeland, they have sort of come out a little bit flat at times outside of having that opening shot in the second half.
And now the Muskies with an opportunity, but a nice job by Nicholson of clearing it one out, forcing the Muskies to play a little bit from behind. Behind the midfield line, now across. But the Muskies have really kind of struggled getting into that final third.
And you're absolutely right there, Parker. You know, they can get close to the final third. The problem is the execution has been so far not that great here throughout the second half, but they have a chance right here at corner.
Haven't seen very many corner kicks from either side in today's match, but get one right here from the Muskies. We see in the first half, the Muskies attempted 3 corner kicks and the Cougars only 2. I believe this is the first one, if I'm not mistaken, of the second half. Nice clear out from the Cougars. Done a really good job of that here in the second half. However, the Muskies taking that one away from Pointer. And a chance. Nice save right there from Perez. Really nice diving attempt. He's a little slow to get up. He's still on the ground.
That's a really good job there by Perez. Immediately running from his net right there, getting the ball right there, and not allowing a pinch out right there. A great up-close opportunity right there. And avoids disaster right there for the Cougars.
No, it can be a little bit difficult kind of sliding on the turf right that. Turf burn is it's a real thing for sure. Perez probably experiencing a little bit of that right there. Cougars with an opportunity in the final third as Arias is met by a couple Lakeland defenders. Cougars with a chance. Nicholson trying to corral things, and it looks like we have another Cougar down. I believe it's number 2, Julian Yanez. It looks like he was ran into by his fellow teammate, Andrew Lechuga. See Lechuga kind of checking up on Yanez to make sure everything's all right. Yanez is still on the pitch. Take a quick break here in the action. We'll be right back on the Cougar Sports Network.
Cougar fans, thanks for tuning in to today's game. For more information on the men's soccer program, head to CUCougars.com. We hope to see you at our next game.
We're back for more second half action on the Cougar Sports Network. We see Julian Yanez is back up on his feet. A good sign if you're the Cougars. And now the Cougars on offense, trying to make something happen here in the second half. They've had a couple of opportunities. Muskies are going to get possession We'll get a throw in from Bianchi. Cougars playing real tough defense, not allowing Lakeland to get into that final third a whole lot in the second half.
And it speaks very well right there. Another good job right there by this Cougars team to win the ball back. That has been the key in this game that they haven't been able to do much out the entire season, is winning the ball back in the midfield.
Another throw-in will be conducted right here from Bianchi. Lakeland trying to get another opportunity in the final third. It looks like they'll get that. Having a little trouble corralling the ball. A deep shot and goes right past Perez. Number 19, Michael Barragon with a deep shot. And now the Muskies retake the lead 3-2.
Their first lead since scoring the opening goal of the game right there. And Barragon, what a shot right there. Having to turn all the way around to his right foot right there. And a tremendous strike right there. He assisted on the last goal for Lakeland. Now this time he is the goal contributor right there, scoring it. And just like that, Cougars are down right here. 3-2.
I mean, looked like that was from about the 20-yard line, and it goes right past the outstretched arms of Joseph Perez. We see right here on the replay, that diving attempt from Perez just goes right past his arms and pings right inside that left upper corner.
No.
Time of the goal, 64-38. As we'll get a quick clear out right here from Perez. That's now 3 goals conceded by the senior goalie.
And a further concern about that, Lakeland have had 3 shots on target. All 3 of them have been goals. Perez hasn't made a save yet in this game. And now if you're the Cougars, they have to start playing a lot more aggressive right here and play on a high up-paced tempo right there. They haven't really had to do since about early on, midway point of the first half. They're going to have to readjust here quickly.
We were just talking about it, too, as it happened, but Lakeland has not had very many opportunities in that final third, but really nice job right there of Barragon capitalizing on the opportunity to give his team the lead. And now the Cougars are trying to play a little bit of catch-up here.
Barragon demonstrated right there just how important he is for this team. He leads the team in goals with now 5 on the year. So he has been a big contributing factor for this Lakeland team and their success so far this season.
And now the Cougars trying to generate an opportunity of their own. Lakeland does a good job of clearing it out. And now D-Bass ricochets off a couple Cougar and Muskie players, but Muskies are going to end up with the possession. Goes right past the foot of Barragon and out of bounds. Cougars will go right back to work on offense. It looks like we have a Cougar down, as it was Julian Yanez once again, but he's helped onto his feet by Brandon Arias. Seen Yanez struggling a couple times to get onto his feet, and we'll get a substitution.
Parker, these next 5 minutes are going to be so critical right here for the Cougars. How do they respond, after, doing a really good job so far today, keeping pace with this Lakeland team, coming back, twice in this game, and now they're down once more. It's going to be really interesting to see how this team reacts. Because normally what we see in this game is the opposition score quickly early on, but the Cougars haven't done that here in the situation.
That substitution for Julian Yanez is Roberto Romero. We saw a good amount of him in the first half. Now making his appearance in the second. Speaking of Romero, dribbles it into the middle third. And now Nicholson takes a fall. Both teams been pretty aggressive here really throughout the entirety of the match, not just the second half in particular.
The key thing here for the Cougars right now is not to panic and not overreact right now. Continue what they were doing, and hope that, good things come to their way.
And Perez comes way out of goal to prevent anything from happening. He'll now rush back to the net. And, Roth, you made a good point. You're only down 1 goal. And it's been, if you're the Cougars, defense has kind of been the question mark today. Offense is there. So if you're in an offensive shootout like this, can't lose your cool. You got to remember what the score is, and you've had plenty of opportunities, and those opportunities will continue to come.
They will, but right now, with Julian Yanez right now on the bench right now, he's scored a goal, he's assisted a goal, he's been one of the best players on this Cougars team right now. Him not being right now on the pitch is a critical loss right now for this Cougars team.
And nice save right there from Perez as it deflects off of his hands. Perez really flying around right now as the Muskies really making him work. Now under the 20-minute mark here in the second half. Looks like we'll get a substitution for the Muskies. Out of the game comes Mishkadet Jithon. Can't necessarily see who entered the game for him, but we'll get you that in a second. Ball will go out of bounds.
There's a sense of worry right now for this Cougars team right now to not let the game get away from them right here. They have to survive these upcoming few attacks right here from Lakeland, sort of reset things once more and try to go back to what worked in the first half, which is playing a lot across both sides of the touchline and start using Lekowitz a lot more here in the second half.
Into the game for Jithon comes Dirk Del Adema, sophomore out of Howards Grove, Wisconsin, who is actually a starter for the Muskies. He enters the game for Jithon. So Muskies up 3-2. They have possession right now in Cougar territory. Ball pops straight up into the air. Trying to get a hold of it is Lechuga. Muskies made it pretty difficult on him. And Roth, if you're the Muskies, what's really changed on offense? Because we saw in the beginning of the half, they weren't getting many opportunities. Now it seems like they have all the opportunities.
It has to do with a large part. They've had a lot of players that come sub on, sub off here in the second half right now. They're just so much more energized and refreshed right now as we see the goalkeeper change we were talking about, in the first half. If Kyle Schultz would come into the game for Joseph Perez, and that has happened right here at this instant.
We'll get a goalie change as Kyle Schultz enters the game for Joseph Perez, the sophomore out of Pingree Grove, Illinois. Schultz is actually my suite mate, so pretty cool to see him make his debut into the game today.
And right now he's coming in a very tough position right now, being down 3-2. And right now for him, the last thing he can do right now for this Cougars team is concede a goal here. So it's going to be very tough on him in this position.
But that just shows the level of trust that Coach Callahan has in the sophomore. Coming into the game down 3-2, really showing a lot of trust in him and what he's been able to do. So far this season, Schultz has played in 3 games, has allowed 4 goals, and has 12 saves, so a percentage of 75%. Pretty solid numbers from the sophomore.
You do have to feel in part, sympathetic towards Perez, obviously being the senior, the leader of this team, particularly, the leader for this Cougars team, particularly in the back line. Just a rough outing for him today, considering how well he played on Wednesday night. Just not a lucky day for him.
And Joseph Perez, he's had a good season. He's actually the captain of this Cougars team, so a really instrumental piece, not just as far as goalie position is concerned or defense, but really just for the entire team to really boost that morale. He's a very vocal guy, leads by example. He's been around this program for 5 years now, so Perez has had a pretty good season, and this is not a knock on him whatsoever.
I think what makes it more tough as well is that, you look at the Cougars so far this year, the biggest issue they've had is that they haven't been able to score goals. Today, they've been able to score 2 goals, and as a goalkeeper, that's all you can really ask for. And unfortunately, today it just hasn't gone the way of favor of Perez, and this is where the Cougars are right now.
And part of that, too, is the Muskies' shot selection. It now into the double digits at 11, but 5 of those shots have been on goal, and some of those, it just does not matter how tall you may be as a goalie, just really stretching horizontally, that using that entirety of the goal. Some of these shots from the Muskies have just been incredibly hard to defend.
And they've been, doing a lot more better job here in the second half on both sides, particularly attacking. They've outshot the Cougars here in the second half 4-2. And defensively, done a really good job tidying things up, now allowing this Cougars team to really, have many opportunities getting to the final third, let alone having goal-scoring opportunities.
Now it looks like Cougars will stay on offense, trying to get something going as we'll get a throw-in from Lechuga. And now Perez send it right back to Lechuga. Cougars working with it on the near sideline. Tries to get it to Pointer, but that pass very well defended by the Muskies. It made it pretty hard to get it to Pointer at any stage in the game.
And outside of his one header he had early in the second half, we haven't heard much of Pointer so far, which gives credit to this Lakeland team, but they've done really well this entire game, but just their 2 center backs doing a really good job marking Pointer and not having him become a factor at all for this Cougars team on attack.
Now the Muskies looking to get something going. Nice header right there from Lechuga. Kind of space things out a little bit. Now Lekowitz. Good clear out right there from Lechuga as that ball will roll onto the track. Now under 15 minutes to play. Time winding down here in the final half. It's been a pretty entertaining game to watch. Pretty high scoring for the game of soccer. Schultz will come out of goal. Nice stop right there for the Cougars. Cougars working with it in the middle third. Able to get it to Pointer. Pointer hasn't been able to get much going. So the Muskies just flock to him every time he gets the ball in his possession.
He hasn't gotten just not enough support right there in the midfield, right there in the middle of the pitch. Just not enough right there for him to do.
Jay Santiago will get it to Perez. Lekowitz trying to make a defensive play right here. Muskies with some green grass in front of him. Muskies will get it in the corner of the field. Now, Cougars working with it on the far side. Pointer working with it, trying to dribble out of trouble. Smariglio finds Julian Yanez, who has made his way back into the game. Something to note, been a really good piece for the Cougars' offensive attack. Opportunity right here, and another goal from Lakeland. That's number 9, Dirk Del Adema. That's just tough right there as the Muskies take a 4-2 lead. Cougars look deflated right now.
We talked about how earlier, how the entire team was so excited, they were playing really well, and now just silence right here. And we're fourth, and that's just – it's tough right now for this Cougars team. They played so well in the first half, second half as the game further progressed. The big concern I had for them was going to be, can this Cougars team keep it up for an entire 90 minutes? And we're seeing here near the end of this game, particularly here in the end of the second half, that has not been the case.
As Pointer gets knocked over by a couple of Muskies, and we see that they were able to match Lakeland offensively in the first half, but second half has been a completely different story. 2 goals by the Muskies here in the second half. CUC not able to keep up. Ben Taylor with the stop right there. Muskies trying to go down the length of the field, but nice defense right there from the Cougars. You get a throw in right there from, that was D-Bass. A couple whistles blown down on the field.
So what happened there was Velasquez was throwing it in, and he didn't know the trigger was coming off, so he was throwing it into him, and that's why we had the whistles right there.
And De Santiago trying to get the ball right back. We get a substitution for the Cougars. Into the game comes number 19, Alfredo Jaramillo. And the Muskies with an opportunity going right down the length of the field. Goes right past the net on the right side. Looked like the Muskies might have had another opportunity.
Right now, this Cougars team right now is currently in desperate need of someone right now making a big play. Some sort of momentum changer here. Time is quickly ticking down here.
We got a corner kick right there from the Muskies. Their 5th corner kick of the game, and another goal. But going to call offsides, so the goal does not count. Huge sigh of relief right there from the Cougars.
I mean, you could see, though, right now, this Cougars team right now, they are just gassed right now. And this is the point of the game right now where Lakeland is taking full advantage of it.
Cougars just trying to make a big play like you were talking about, Roth, in desperate need of someone to step up, and talked about how the Muskies have been really neutralizing Pointer, and he's the leading shot taker, the leading goal scorer of this team. So far, we've seen a goal from Yanez, a goal from Lekowitz, but since those goals in the first half, really nobody has stepped up on offense. And now Nicholson looked like he wanted to take a shot. Kind of hesitated right there as he had a couple Muskie defenders in the way. And a foul. Possession will go right back to the Muskies. Cougars looking kind of depleted in their overall morale.
You could just sense it right now, sort of almost like the body language right now of this team. And, they were close. They were close to potentially winning this game, if not at least having it tied after 90 minutes. And right now, the reality is sinking in for the Cougars, and it's not a good feeling. I know that personally firsthand, back in my soccer playing days.
Now Pointer tries to get it to Lekowitz. Now Pointer with an opportunity. He finds Arias. Nice defensive play. Huge defensive play by number 23, Ong San.
That right there was an incredible job right there by San. That is textbook right there, defending right there. Making the slide tackle right there of the ball.
Looked like Arias might have had a one-on-one opportunity. San comes in there and just pokes the ball away right at the last second. And Arias, that shot misses the mark. High left. This time continuing to wind down here in River Forest. Muskies with a 4-2 lead. Now the Muskies working on the far side of the pitch. That pass intercepted. I believe that was Smariglio. And now Yanez, that was Velazquez. Flipping on over to Lekowitz. And looks like Pointer might have had a chance, but it just goes on the left side of the net. Now under 5 minutes to play here in the final half.
Looking at this entire complexity of this game, I think what's most shocking about it is that, this Cougars team, throughout the entire year, it's an opportunity.
And Pointer with the shot. Nice deflection right there from Taylor, and right before Lekowitz is able to get to it, nice saving attempt. Really good defense by that Lakeland back line and Taylor.
Taylor's done a really good job here as the game has further progressed, considering the mistakes he made early in this game. And a really good diving effort by him. But I was mentioning beforehand, I think what's most surprising about this game is that the Cougars throughout this entire year have been a really good second-half team. You look at the statistics. They have outscored their opponents in the second half 5-4, yet today it's been the complete opposite. And you figure, with the good start they had in this first half, scoring 2 goals, you would think that they would really be able to keep up with Lakeland throughout this entire 90 minutes. And shockingly, to many of us, that has not been the case. And I'll give credit to Lakeland for what they have done here in the second half.
Lakeland has been lights out on defense in the second half. They've also been pretty good on the offensive end. I'd say 2 goals. Meanwhile, it's been a completely different storyline for the Cougars, not able to generate as much on offense as they were in the first. just looking a little tired. And, I mean, I made this point, like, when you don't have a lot of depth on the bench, it can get kind of hard for these players who are, you know, having to be relied upon to play lots of minutes, and especially when you have a couple of injuries here and there. So we have another Cougar down. I believe that is Velasquez. Looks like he's holding his left leg. Looks like we may have a couple trainers attend to him. We'll take a break in the action. We'll be back for the final 2 minutes and 42 seconds here on the Cougar Sports Network. And we're back for the final couple minutes of regulation as Velasquez was helped off the field. We mentioned that he was kind of nursing a little bit of an ankle injury prior to the game. It looks like he might have aggravated that ankle again. So kind of an unfortunate circumstance for the Cougars as he was helped off the field. Cougars trying to make something happen offensively. Lakeland just playing lights out on defense. Haven't allowed much to get through. Now 2 minutes to go here in regulation. Into the game for Velasquez is Andrew Lechuga, who we just saw right there.
Also, during that timeout, we also had a Lakeland player just raised, also get a yellow card as well.
Yellow card was given to Joseph Reyes for unsporting. So the Cougars working with it on offense, trying to get into that final third to potentially get an opportunity. Comeback, I'd say, would be improbable, but we've seen crazier things happen. Now Lakeland, looks like they may have had the opportunity. Perez will clear that one out. 1 minute left here in the second. And now Pointer trying to work with it. He has 3 Lakeland defenders right on him. I mean, he hasn't been able to get much off. Lakeland playing some great defense on Pointer all game long.
And that right there was the perfect example of what Lakeland had done all day long for Pointer and haven't given him much to work with.
Now less than 20 seconds to go. Ten seconds. Throw in right here from the Cougars. Cougars aren't able to get a shot off, and that'll do it. Your final score here in River Forest. The Muskies come into River Forest and steal one from the Cougars, 4-2. Lakeland picks up their first conference win of the season. They improved to 2-3-1 overall, 1-1 in the conference. On the other side, the Cougars dropped to 0-6 and now 0-2 in the conference. Real tough one for the Cougars. And Roth, we saw a team that was motivated on offense in the first half, but what happened to that same team we saw in the second half?
The lack of depth that this team has had really was exposed here as the game further went along here in the second half. You know, you look at the Cougars, they only used 3 substitutions throughout this entire game, so you had a lot of players having to play the full 90 minutes, whereas Lakeland, they've use 7 to 8 players, in the substitutions, So just because of that, the advantage in numbers right there created Lakeland to have a lot of fresh legs, which was able to allow them to use their feet, their athleticism right there to take advantage of, which was really shown right there in that final goal they scored right there. And that was a big difference, and the major difference in the second half that had since helped Lakeland pick up the win.
Once again, the Cougars fall 4-2 to the Muskies. We'll go ahead and look ahead at what's to come for both sides. First, for the Muskies, they will return to their home field September 20th, which is Wednesday, as they take on another conference opponent, Milwaukee School of Engineering, or MSOE. Next Saturday, they will host Benedictine University. Conference play in full swing for the Muskies, and for the Cougars, they'll be back in action at home as they take on Aurora University on Wednesday. Then they'll be on the road next Saturday at Wisconsin Lutheran College. Real quick, want to give a shout out to our student workers that were able to make this production possible. Working the camera, Janie Turnez, our producer, Emily Balaban, down on the table, Wyatt McLaughlin, down on the table, Natalie Giardo, working our stats, Ashley Schroll. On the scoreboard was Wyatt McLaughlin, our photographer, Sabre Miller. On the other camera, Leila Scott. And our public address announcer, Peter Borkowski. We are under the direction of Sydney Palaskis-Laher and our sports information director, Kayla McLeod. As for me and my partner, Rafael Gonzalez, I am Parker Kelly, signing off the Cougar Sports Network. I want to say, as always, go Cougars.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.